Hello, what's up? It's Elicity back with another episode of Behind The Recordz. This week I'm gonna talk a little bit about the music production side. So I wasn't really producing before 2024 because I didn't really see a reason why, and I didn't really have friends that were also producing. Most of them were more like DJing, or if they were producing, they weren't producing stuff I wanted to produce. Especially producing, I was more into like hip hop production, but I always thought it was so difficult. And yeah, also the whole like techno tech house stuff, I didn't really want to start because yeah, I didn't really have people that I could connect with to produce that kind of music. Another big issue with like starting the whole music production is like you don't know where to start. There's like so many things you could start doing, and there's so many tools, so many different now also AI tools. It kind of is easy to start, but because it's so easy to start everywhere, you don't know where to start, and this was a big issue that I had quite often. Like I already said once in a previous video, for me Ableton is quite similar to Excel, you know? Like, yeah, with the basic stuff you can do a lot, but you sometimes feel that if you want to be like a master in Excel, you know, you have to know all the functions and everything. But yeah, in music production it's kind of the same. Like, yeah, Ableton can do so much, you don't know where to start with what, and yeah, the thing is like you just have to start somewhere and just go with it, you know. I think that really helped me through this initial struggle was Martin, because he like showed me how he produced tracks, so I could see a little bit, okay, how is he using this whole Ableton. It was really like monkey see, monkey do, you know. And also McLovin helped a lot. We produced a lot together, so I could also see his whole process. And then, yeah, at some point you kind of like start trying out on your own, and then you kind of get a hang of it, you know. I think what was really important for me was to limit myself at some point. I often have this like overwhelmness when like so many things or so many options are there, I don't really know what to choose or where to start. And then it always helps me to like limit myself. And I think what really helped was like having those devices that just had like specific functions, or like they also have so many functions but I didn't know many of them, and like just getting started on a limited basis. If I consider this more in tracks, I just started to limit myself at some point. This wasn't in the beginning, this was like in mid-year, where I was just like, okay, just so many tracks from that noise and just so many melodies and so on. Because I think in the beginning I just tried to do much and be like, yeah, there's so many things, like see what all I can do. But it's just an assemblage of noise at some point. And what I found out during this year journey was also that it isn't about having many or noises or many different noises. It's about having the right noises, you know, the right sounds. And that's something I'm also trying to pursue a little bit more this year. But back then when I started out, my best friends besides Martin and McLovin in this whole endeavor were ChatGPT, YouTube and Google. Basically all the information you need for music production is there. Like on YouTube you have a video basically to everything. Like Google gives you like specific answers and websites to specific problems, and ChatGPT is just like you can ask it everything if you know how to prompt it a little bit and don't feel stupid asking stupid questions. Because like I think I asked it the most stupid musical questions because I really didn't know anything. It was like, this could be a question straight out of like music production for dummies. It's like, yeah, what is a scale, you know, all that stuff. And with ChatGPT, like I don't feel ashamed to ask them questions, and afterwards, you know, and with that knowledge you can dig a little bit deeper in Google or then in YouTube and find the specific things that you need. I mean, at some point I actually started going down this whole YouTube rabbit hole. Martin always told me, yeah, just watch some YouTube videos, especially about mastering, because I never really wanted to master. And I just didn't want to like, you know, fill up my whole YouTube algorithm with this music production stuff, because I thought I knew that if I'm gonna start watching those videos, my feed's gonna be full of music production stuff, and I don't know if I'm ready for that, you know. And yeah, but at some point I actually did that, and yeah, it was how I thought it would be. Like afterwards, so much stuff was just music production. and you end up in a rabbit hole, but you also learn a lot of stuff. But I think it's important, especially on YouTube, that you find channels that like fit your learning style and also the thing you want to do, because there are so many videos out there on YouTube that you can also easily find bad stuff or stuff that doesn't really help you. So I was lucky to find like 2-3 channels that really fit the vibe that I want to see content and how they told stuff and also the things they were doing. Because for me it was more like I had a lot of devices, and it was more about, okay, how can I use these devices for the music production aspect, or like how, like I used to play the piano a little bit, but I couldn't really remember a thing. But then I was like, how can I learn to play the piano for music production? Like, what do I need? I don't need to play like difficult melodies and everything. I just have to have the simple things and get the vibe, because I like playing around and pressing buttons and stuff instead of just like being on the keyboard and mouse and like but that's just me. I think that's one of the most important things in this whole music production process, that you find what fits your workflow. And for me, my workflow, like I said, is more like just creating beats or music, or like playing around and then finding later on a way how to like record this. It's the same issue I had with a lot of projects or jobs. Like for example, when I did some web design, like doing a whole website was so much work and with so much details, and this has to be there. It was really difficult, you know, like just to get everything right, and I just started to overthink too much. And the same as like with the tracks, if I see everything in Ableton, I'm like, oh, how can I do this? Should I do it like that? And this is something I'm also trying to do a little bit different this year with the Unfinished Beatz. This is basically, I have a bass beat and I switch it up, play around, and with the effects on the mixer and on the devices, most of the time you can do a lot, and that's already enough for what I try to achieve. And if I can record that live, like that's nice. And for me, it's a way better and more fitting workflow than just going into Ableton and structuring everything, because then for me everything looks a little bit the same. But if I do it live and mash it up, it's just different. But that's just me, and I think everybody has to find their own way and like just explore a little bit what fits most for them. In the video coming in probably 2 or 3 weeks, I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper into this whole workflow of the Unfinished Beats, like how I create those beats and like how I play around with those to record it into a whole track. So that's gonna be a little bit more behind the scenes content, so we can look forward to that. For now, we're just gonna focus a little bit more on the tracks that I already produced last year. Like in the previous 2 videos, I'm gonna like show some of the tracks here somewhere in the video. But I don't think I'm gonna go into all of the tracks in depth, because I really tend to yap along too much and lose myself and make too long videos, and then Future really has to like post, produce and edit all that stuff, and I don't wanna burden him too much, you know. So the first ever track that we released on HWY Records was Afro City by me. And it was basically a little bit of a spite move, because like it was this whole Afro house vibe and wave, and I wasn't really into it, and I was like, it's just like, it's so easy, just put some things in there, everybody can do it. And obviously I was wrong, you know, it's more difficult than you think. But out of this naivety, like I just took some splice samples, mashed them along. I think I didn't mix anything or master shit, you know, like no EQs, nothing. And just like, this sounds nice, this sounds like Afro house, you know, put some vocals there. This was also probably my second ever track I tried to produce, so it was just maybe a weird assemblage of noise. But I just felt like I had to do this to get some motivation, and I remember back then I thought like, this is a banger, and like I think already a month later or something, I thought it was ass, but it is what it is. The second track that we released was from Martin, and like this whole unofficial summer mixtape and all those tracks, like I only got the motivation and also the energy to do that because I knew Martin and McLovin would support me, because they had way more experience in producing. And especially Martin came through so many times and So also the second track was from him, called Love, and he says it's like his best produced track to this date, or like until I think already the end of like 2024. Like just from the skills and of like how he like paid attention to the detail. But yeah, it's not his most listened track or anything. It's kind of weird, and it's something we also figured out throughout the whole year, like those views algorithms. It's special, like I don't really understand it yet, but we still gotta figure it out. Also, this track from Martin was probably one of the best tracks until like late into the year, because my tracks were all ass and Martin had like just the best skills, and the track that we released the week after that was Play Left, and this was my first ever track I produced, and yeah, it's not good, you know, it's like, it's boring, it doesn't really have a drop and stuff, but yeah, it was all part of the journey. So the next couple tracks were also all from Martin, because he already had some tracks finished. Yeah, they were already on a good level, so I was really looking forward to post them. Also, a nice thing about Martin is like he explores all the genres, like for better or for worse. Like, but in the beginning he also had a good vibe with like the techno track Lights Out, and then also the next track Keisha, which is playing right now, which is one of my favorite tracks, I still think, till now, like from the whole Unofficial Summer mixtape. And Martin doesn't understand, because he thinks it's just like a simple and like boring song, but I don't know, I think I was listening to it quite often while I was just pushing through university deadlines and also organizing a lot of live stuff and doing this whole like HWY stuff, and it was just like, yeah, don't stop, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I don't know, I still like this track very much. Like the next track we released after that from him, again, it's not that I don't like the track, it's just like I don't like the genre. I remember Martin sent me this track to like pre-listen, and I was on the way to my brother's place, and I was walking from the train station to his house, and I listened to it, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it's good produced, it's vibey and everything, but it's just like, I don't like the genre, you know? That's also why I'm not playing it here, like you can go listen to it if you want, but it's like this weird disco, housey, and like, I was like, yeah, fair, I need tracks, like I'm gonna put it up, but yeah, if you ask for my honest opinion, like I think it's a weird track. And I have to say that's something I always appreciate, for the better or for the worse, like Martin and McLovin, they were always real and honest with me, like if they said if something was bad or how you could improve it and everything, and that was, yeah, that was really nice, and I also tried to be as honest back as possible. Like, I know I didn't have the skill to do it better, but I just like gave my feedback as like, if I would hear this song, like what would I think about it? I think this is like quite valuable. So track number 7 was the first collaboration with McLovin, called Manea, Why You Do This. This was really, like, this is the track that still has the most plays until now. You can see it here, like over 1K. And I don't really understand why. Like, I thought, like, first when we uploaded the track was, yeah, of course, it was a collab with McLovin and I, but like the later tracks weren't that good, so I don't know, maybe it caught away for something that the algorithm liked. I mean, I know 1K plays is still not much compared to so many other artists and things, but like, just being from a standpoint of having just started production and everything, and then just having a track that performs quite well, that was motivating, you know. I hope that like the next track, of course, would also perform as well, because like this whole collab vibe of McLovin and me was like, yeah, I thought all the tracks would be nice, but this quite quickly changed, or not changed, it just got like into the normal range of like 200 to 400 plays, and I couldn't really tell what the difference was between the tracks or what would make them stand out. But it also reached a point where I was just like, okay, I'm gonna throw tracks at this algorithm like every week or something, and then just see and make sense out of it. I was also surprised because like Handtaker got some compliments from Martin. He was like, if he would play at Bocone, the bar that he had his residency, the Italian restaurant, he could play the song there, which would fit. So I thought like, okay, this would be a nice track, but yeah, like I said, it didn't perform as well as the track before, and yeah, we then just decided to put some tracks out there. And the track after that, like Dead City, is also one of my favorite tracks. One of my favorite parts is this one here. Just to give some context, like every track from the first half of the unofficial summer mixtape, like Martin mastered every one of them, like every track of me, like every collab of McLovin and me, and obviously all of his own tracks. Like he spent 1 or 2 hours, I think at least, every track to like add something to it. So that was really nice, and I also liked the whole vibe of this track. So yeah, that's really fun. The next track was a solo production from Martin called Forever Together. Was also a nice future housey track. I think like every time Martin produced another track, I was like, yeah, can I also release? Because he had this challenge where he wanted to release like every track every 2 weeks. But yeah, as he also realized, it's difficult to like consistently post stuff, especially if life happens. I was always really grateful when he gave me some tracks that I could also release on HWY, because I was like, yeah, I can chill another week, or I don't have to stress that much about the tracks. Because at a certain level it was just like, yeah, it's just so much, again, considering that I was also doing uni and all the other HWY stuff, and like just, yeah, enjoying life and so on. Like I'm already mentioning a little bit, like it was a stressful time around that, so I decided to stop those whole tracks, and I just wanted to have like one last track to finish like the first part of the unofficial summer mixtape, and would finally be time for Martin and me to collab. And I thought it would be funny, but it was messy as fuck. Like obviously, like if I thought like realistically, of course it would be messy. Like he's a messy person, I'm a messy person. This was also around the time when Martin was planning his whole move to the US and like planning all that stuff and preparing. So I knew he didn't have that much time, but I was also like, you know, I have like certain deadline, and if I say like I post every week, I need something to post. And I remember we were quite far along, like he started something, I added something, then like he added again a little bit. And then it was the point where he just had to like do the final touches, but he never really got to it. And I think just before I wanted to like post it, he was like, yeah, I finished it, I just have to like finalize the mastering and export it. I didn't have like the energy because he was like working on it until like 1, 2 in the morning. And yeah, I was like, okay, fair, but you know, I have to post it, but if you send it in 1 or 2 weeks, I can still replace the file for like promote the track on SoundCloud. But yeah, then he was moving, he forgot, and like he never finished it, and I think he has like the mastered version on his computer that's still here in Switzerland, so I don't know if we're ever gonna see his mastered version of the track. But still, for me it was difficult because like I wanted to have the consistency of him like having to master all the tracks, but I also knew it was a lot of work and I didn't want to like stress him too much. And yeah, then I just posted it how it was, like I think I mastered it a little bit. And in the end it also got like okay feedback. Then I was just like at some point, yeah, maybe I can also try releasing tracks without always giving everything to Martin to have seconds will be mastering it. Especially considering that he's gonna be in the US soon, and like I don't think he has that much time for all that. But yeah, that's more on the winter editions of the unofficial summer mixtape. Like after this track we did a little break, just focus a little bit more on the video sets, because like I said, this doing tracks every week was kind of stressful. I mean, like most of the year was kind of stressful because I always tried new stuff with HWY while still maintaining my whole life and studies, and I so often thought it'd be so much easier to do the stuff I wanted to do, but if I wanted to do like tracks every week or like the sets every week, it got kind of stressful, and then I always switched a little bit, like doing tracks and sets. And after the sets got a little bit stressful again, like I already talked about last week, I decided to switch up again to do some tracks, because during that time when I was doing the video sets, I prepared some other tracks or got to work a little bit more on them, like did a little bit more research. I started using like more plugins that I already had from the MPC and so on, just to have different workflows, and I also started to understand the whole Ableton a little bit better. And at the same time, McLovin and I were still like producing every 1 or 2 week on a Sunday and just like come together, make like a basic beat or a basic loop, and I would have so many of them prepared that I just started like structuring them. And the whole second part, or the whole winter editions of the Unofficial Summer mixtape were about like, okay, having a bass beat and how can I structure it to a song. And I knew that I needed to add or remove some things at some points. And yeah, I just started to see this whole like winter editions as a trainings arc to see, okay, what are options to structure those tracks? How can I use the plugins that I have to create other sonic experience instead of just using Serum? Because I didn't really understand Serum that much, and the other plugins had more presets that I knew or that I knew from the devices. And it made it a little bit easier, like just to play around with it. Another thing that I tried to learn with the Soul Winter Edition was mastering, because I knew Martin wasn't around anymore, so I just tried figuring out this whole mastering process and also like watching some YouTube videos. And I don't know, mastering is still kind of a sorcery to me, but I understand its value. But yeah, more on that on the recap in the end. The first track of the winter edition was Sleep Better, and I remember I already wanted to post it in the normal Unofficial Summer mixtape, but when I played it to Martin, he was like, yeah, this is a goofy bass line. And I don't know what he meant with a goofy bass line, but I know it was insulting by the way he was saying it. I remember that I felt a little bit, sad, because always when you do a track, it's like a precious little baby, and then if somebody says like, yeah, it's ugly, it's goofy, it's like, oh, why do you do that? But in the end he was right, and like it just motivated me to engage a little bit more with Serum, like how can you adjust the bass line to make it sound less goofy. But in the end, like I mentioned before, I ended up like using the plugins and exploring that a little bit more. And through that process I started understanding Serum again a little bit better. So yeah, this was an interesting thing, but yeah, like I said, those tracks were more like trainings, archy, and yeah, that was Sleep Better, the first track. So yeah, after I changed like the sonics and the bass line of Sleep Better, like I started to feel it more, like Martin was right, the track sounded better. Also, I was at the point where I was like, okay, this doesn't have to be the banger, the perfect track, it's more like training. And also the next track, I remember this is like, I just had some Kim Possible vibes. Like most of the tracks, we had a chill bass track that McLovin and I created at some point, and then like just taking it from there. The third track of the winter editions, Tell Me, is one that I also like more than others because it has cowbells. Like I just was like, okay, how can I make those bass loops and create a track that I like more? And then I was like, okay, what sounds do I like? I like the 808 cowbell. And then I just added the cowbell, and I think I took a MIDI pattern that McLovin already used for like some of the hats or something, and I just used it for the cowbell. And also the next track, Closed Head, which was like a solo project for me, I just added some cowbells. And then I was like, okay, this track sounds better. I don't know, sometimes I'm a simple being, like if there's some sonics that I like and you have them in there, like that's all I need, like I don't need much more from the track sometimes. Yeah, the following two tracks are like a little bit weird, like the Gets track, I think we just found some vocals, found them funny, like so often McLovin and I would just get stuck on a beat or a loop or like some vibe, and then like we just get into it. And sometimes if you listen to it back a few weeks later it sounds weird, but I was like, yeah, let's just go for it, like make something out of it. And then again, I didn't really understand the algorithm at that time, I still don't understand it, and like the idea was just like, okay, throw so many different tracks at it as possible. And like the weird thing is the next track that we released, like Not Right, this was like one of the weirdest and strangest tracks, like still, because it has some harmonies played, and like I don't know what I did there, but like it sounds super strange and somehow fitting but not, and I was not really sure if I should like release the track or not, but at some point I was like, yeah, let's just see what the algorithm thinks, and they got more plays than so many of the other tracks, which was so confusing. So yeah, that's that. The next track that we released was Let 'Em Know, and this was basically, yeah, it was a chill track. Like most of the time, the whole drums and everything from our collaborations are from McLovin, and I just like play around with the melodies. And back then I found a nice sub-drone. Like back then I didn't really know what sub-drones were, like if I heard the name, but like when I played the Sonic I was like, okay, I heard that before and I like it, so oh, that's a sub-drone bass, okay. And yeah, I don't know, for me like this whole track is just about the drone, and yeah, it's really nice, like I really enjoyed it. This comes again back to the whole point of like, sometimes you just need nice sonics and that's all, yeah, I need for a track. Then the last track that I had some involvement in was the collab with McLovin, and it was Bad, Can't Stop, and it was basically, I think we found a vocal or something like bad, and yeah, got hooked on that. And then later I just like made a whole track out of it. But the whole thing with those winter editions where they're quite repetitive, because like, yeah, the whole thing was like we have a basic beat and how to make a track out of it. Yeah, most of the times it was more like a little bit mass production, you know, so I could focus on the tracks. But then again, I don't feel like I would have the skills that if I would like overthink and overwork a track, it wouldn't be that much better. I feel I'm in a state where I have to go through a lot of iterations and just get better, and the whole cringing at my own tracks is just like motivation to get better, you know. Yeah, we closed off the year and the winter editions with some techno tracks from Martin. He came through with 2 tracks that he produced, and like this techno drum and bass Martin, like those tracks are my favorite. So this was a nice early Christmas gift. Yeah, and just to close off the year, and after those tracks we also went into the winter break, like just to reassess a little bit and see for the next year. So yeah, to wrap up this episode, I'm gonna reflect again a little bit and see the lessons learned from this whole year of production, like starting from nothing and yeah, where we got. And one of the main thing is like this whole mastering. You always hear about mastering and yeah, how important it is, and I never really understood it, you know, like I didn't listen that careful to it. But if you get into this whole sorcery of mastering, you just like understand, okay, why do I hear this cowbell now, or like why is this loud, or how can you like change, also like have the same sounds but change the sonic experience through like the loudness of certain things. Like you can have similar tracks or like bass lines or like drum patterns, but by just changing the mastering or like how loud something is or the element is can change a lot. And I still think it's too much for me to like, I will never master mastering, you know, but it's fascinating. It's good to understand it a bit and get also appreciation for it. But still for me, I don't feel like I can like master this whole mastering thing. So I try to find ways where I can like take shortcuts or like different ways where I don't have to master tracks. Like in the Unfinished Beatz, I just live record the things. Of course, like I master them a little bit, but like by saying it's live, I kind of giving myself an excuse to not master everything perfectly because, you know, it's live, you know. But yeah, let's see how long that works. And I know at some point, if you want to have legit tracks, you need somebody that really can master tracks. But yeah, that's a future problem. One thing that was a really big learning for me in this whole year was that you just have to finish tracks sometimes. Like I met so many people that were like, ah, yeah, I can't release the track, or I need to finish, it has to be perfect. And I understand it. Yeah, but for me, it was more like I wanted to improve my skills and learn quickly. So I just had to finish tracks to be able to listen to them and then like reevaluate and learn from that. And like I cringed so much at tracks. I was like, how could I think like a week ago that this would be a good track? But I think this just showed the rapid improvement. And yeah, I think that was the most important thing for me, to just like give myself space to like, yeah, finish stuff and then reflect it, and also just to let it go. I know many artists that like delete their early tracks, and I don't know if I'm gonna do it at some point, but I don't intend to, because one of the goals of this HWY documentation of Journey is to show like everybody starts out trash, you know. Nobody is good at producing from the beginning. You have to have some kind of prior knowledge or something, or have to learn it. I mean, of course, there are probably worse tracks out there, but it's also like thinking that with those tracks you could be like a serious record label. That's also not true. So this is all more learning thing. That's also why those are all mixtapes. It's just like, it's not a real track, not a real thing. It's just like a training iteration. And I think just to give yourself some space and allow yourself to make mistakes and learn from them, that's a really important thing in this whole music production learning cycle. And then one last thing that I learned, and this was also more through my YouTube rabbit hole research, everything. Because like I said in the beginning, like I was a lot about, okay, I have to do so many things and use all the different tracks you can use in Ableton. But the more like I engaged with like the music and good artists, I start to understand that it's not more, but it's less, you know. It's not about having a lot of things, but having the right things, the right sounds. And this is something that is also in this whole season 2 journey, where I just try to explore my devices and see what kind of sounds and noises can I create that are kind of unique and special. It's more about how can I create those simple elements and still create like a rich experience, you know. But yeah, this brings us to the end of another Behind the Recordz episode. Like always, I'm really grateful for all the early watchers. I'm trying to make those videos better every week. Like right now it's still a lot pre-produced, so the first batch of those videos are gonna be like equally bad, I guess. But I try to take my learnings from that, like from the production. And yeah, hopefully we're gonna have some nice tracks and nice videos in a few years. And yeah, until then, skill up and stay healthy. See you.